My present name is Leopold Page, and I reside in Beverly Hills, California. My original name is Leopold Pfefferberg. I was born in Krakow on March the 20th, 1913. This makes me now 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My parents was middle-class Jewish family, from both sides coming from the Orthodox family, and the family concerned from about over 100 members of a very close family like uncle, aunts, and first and second cousin. By intermarriages, our family grew to few hundred close-knit families in Krakow. I was born in Krakow, Poland.
Your father had gone to America, though, at some point.
My father was in America just before the First World War, because we have a family in the United States, but on account that his father died, he has to return, and he has to support his mother and his sister and brother. And very soon he got married, and very soon I was born. Mm-hmm. It was a very nice situation. My father always was dreaming to come back to the United States, but on account of the Polish quota that was so bad, he could return to the United States any time, but he couldn't take his family with him. In between, the First World War started, and he went, and he was involved till the last minute of the war, till November 11, 1918.
The concept of quotas affected you a lot in your life in terms of education?
Oh, tremendous. The quota that was put particular on the Polish citizens was so small that the waiting period for my father to bring the family to the United States was about 25 years to wait.
Yeah. But even in terms of college and getting your education, didn't it affect how Jews in Poland?
May I tell you something? The situation, particularly in Krakow, wasn't as bad as in any cities in Poland, particularly in eastern part of Poland. The Jewish population in Krakow before the 1939 was quite large, almost 80,000 Jews, and they were a dominating force in the business or in the field of education or in the professions like attorney or doctors. And we didn't feel in the beginning, later on when the Hitler started on the rise, the anti-Semitism, particularly in this part of Poland, what was under the Austria jurisdiction, started to raise with the power of the Hitlerism in Germany.
How did you first recognize the Hitler presence? What was happening?
You see, from 1933, all the young people, and I was just finishing my university, we were involved very much in the Jewish life because it was a normal for all the people over there. We belonged to Jewish student organization, and we were involved in Jewish sport clubs and so forth. When the persecution in Germany started and Hitler got in power and started to force the German Jews, particularly German Jews who were born in Poland, and he was throwing them over the Polish border to Poland, we were very much involved to absorb those people, to give them a place to live, to give them a chance to establish themselves and make a living. And we were very busy with this for the first, till the war started, because there were thousands and thousands Jews and born in Poland, not even born in Germany. Or then when Austria was annexed to Germany, and Czechoslovakia, then they're coming the Czechoslovakian and the Austrian Jews. So we were quite busy, particularly in Krakow, but showed tremendous hospitality for those people. And Krakow was a centrum of highest education, having the finest university, alma mater of Poland, was established in 1463, was the third oldest university in the world, with a very high scholastic level, was very important for those people because they want to enter the university or get involved in the profession while they were there.
When you saw these Jews being returned to Poland, what did you feel about the possibility of German plans?
Oh, we understand the situation very well, particularly the people who are intelligentsia was very much aware what the Germans has in sleeves. You see, because first they allowed them to get out from Germany, but they didn't allow them to take anything else except a small bundle. This was already highway robbery there. So we knew that this will be much more progressive. Then they even come the Crystal Nights and the pogroms and the murder and the killing, and we understand the mentality and all those speeches of Hitler against the Jews, particularly in Germany, and then against the wall Jewry. You understand what I mean? We knew exactly what he has in sleeve.
Did you know exactly that he had the idea of a final solution?
No. I wouldn't say that we knew about this. No. This came much, much later, particularly in 1941, in December, when he has the speech in Reichstag, when he said, when he will see a Jew on the street in 1943, he will shake his hand. So we knew that something is very, very dangerous. We didn't know exactly what will be the solution, but there will be some solution to dissolve all the European Jewry under the jurisdiction of German.
When did you recognize the severity of what he had in mind?
I would say in 1941, end of 41, 42, 43, when the biggest killing was going on. There was no question about it in our mind, because we were sending letters to Joint Distribution Committee in 1942, 43, and telling them those situation and the stories. The world didn't believe it.
Yeah.
This is the tragedy. The whole world didn't believe it. They were thinking that there was some Jews who panic and they over-exaggerate what is going on, and they didn't accept it. They didn't accept it even to the last day of the war, because there were statements after the war made by Nachum Goldman, who was the World Jewish Congress president, who said, mea culpa, we didn't know what is going over there during this year from 1939 till 1945, and this is not true, because the letters and the information was supplied to him, and his job was to know about it. Yeah. And mea culpa is not enough.
Yeah. Could you go back a little and tell us about your own career in Poland?
Yes. I finished the public school, and I entered to the high school, what we call in gymnasium, in a public school. This means was sponsored by the government, but not too many Jews was accepted. They have to be a very highly educated, and so far I was lucky one. I finished in a very short period, this means in prescribed 8 years, and I applied to a medical school, physical education department of the famous Polish university in Krakow, the Universities of Jagiellonians, and I was lucky. I was only one Jew who was accepted to this particular faculty, and this faculty was a new one. It was established in 1928, and this was in 1930, so I was, I would say, the third Jew who was accepted during these first 3 years, from which one is a lady who is still alive in Poland, and she still teaches physical education, and the other was a professor, Julius Aleksandrowicz, who is now a very famous professor at the university in Krakow in a cancer of the blood specialist.
So you already had a career as the war came on.
I have a wonderful career, because with my education and with my background, when I finished it, this means 1935, when I got the master's degree in philosophy and education, I was the only one Jew that has the credential to teach in every high school. And because we didn't have a Jewish public school, they were all private, the field was open, because there were no Jewish teacher in my field at all. And I was very lucky. I was teaching in a very fine high school in Krakow, the old Jewish high school in Krakow, and then in a brand new high school in Częstochowa, where scholastically those high schools were on very, very high level, because the Jewish community was interested to employ the best teacher, Jewish or non-Jewish. When they didn't have a Jewish teacher, they employed non-Jewish teacher. So the scholastically, the Jewish school was on a very, very high level, and created a tremendous amount of talented people, and I can mention names. They are still alive, some of them who survived.
As you recognized what was happening What was going on in your family? Did you stay together?
The tragedy struck every family from 1939. Now, I was an officer in the Polish army also, but it was unusual as a Jew, and I was a company commander. First, I was like a second hand, and when the company commander got killed, I took over the company, and I was wounded on around the 20th of September, and I got to the hospital that was overrun by Germans, and I became a PW,
Prisoner of war.
Prisoner of war in Przemysl. This was just on the Curzon line, what was division between Russia and Germany. When the German overran the Poland, they make agreement, you know.
And you're talking
attack,
1939.
attack with Russian, and they divide Poland. But it was not the first time in the Polish history. And the Curzon line, or the River San, was the borderline between Germany and funny story, the German high command give the officer we were on the Russian side by this agreement. The hospital was on the Russian side. They give us a choice to go to prisoner of war to Russia or to go as a prisoner of war to Germany. We decide, all the officers, to go as a prisoner of war to Germany because we were sure that the Geneva Convention will be positively respected by the German, but we didn't trust the Russian that they will do it, and this is true because Russian killed 16,000 officers in Katyn, and this is a very proven. Many Jewish officers were killed there too. We went because we decided this, and we didn't know that what will happen in future, but as an instinct and as a assumption that they will respect the Geneva Convention, we decided to go. And they were not only Jewish officers, they were all officers, from first lieutenant to general. Mm-hmm. And when they were transporting us to Germany, when we were passing through Krakow, I escaped. Mm-hmm. And I escaped, I came home. The family was still intact. This was still in October, beginning of October 1939. I came to my home, the family was there, but I never reported. There was an order made by German High Command that all the soldiers and officers has to report themselves to Gestapo. How long this Gestapo was supposed to supervise this, I never reported, because I knew that this will be bad things, and really I was right, because 4,000 officers reported, and all 4,000 disappeared, and they were killed in Auschwitz during the period about a year. And they were not Jewish officers, they were any officer. They disappeared, slowly were disappearing, and they were exterminated or killed, murdered in Auschwitz. And this was already in 1940 and 41.
When did you first make the acquaintance of Schindler?
Schindler, this is a very good question. I was hiding between my friends because I knew Gestapo was looking. I got the information that they are looking for me, so I was hiding between friends. But I still have my gun. It's a peculiarity. I never surrendered the gun. This was not my military gun. This was my, like a dress gun, what every officer has. And I hide this gun in my apartment. Maybe it was stupidity, but in these days we didn't realize it. Still the danger. You understand what the consequences can be. And one day I was afternoon in my mother's apartment, and she and I were alone when somebody knocked on the door. I looked through the looker, and I see a handsome man, not in the uniform, with a big Nazi sign in his lapel, and I said, my God, Gestapo. So I pulled the gun, and I figured out, when they want to take me, no way. And I asked my mother to open the door, and she let this man in. But during the conversation that my mother has with him, I realized that this man is not Gestapo, and I introduced myself, and we struck to each other from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And we became as a friends almost. He was industrialist. He was a part of the General Canaris, the army espionage, and he came to Krakow with the German army. But then, as an engineer, he saw the opportunity in Krakow, and he established himself in the business, making pot and pans. and utensils for the army.
Do you
And-
have
and
any
his-
idea when he decided to become a protector of the Jews?
You see, in the beginning, this was strictly business. You understand what I mean? He employed the people, he was very nice, he paid the money, but later on, when the restrictions came towards the Jews, that we have to move from our apartments from the city to the ghetto, and then when his company started growing and growing, and more orders and more money was coming, he started to employ, under our influence, more Jews in his factory, because we realized that the condition working for him, maybe the war will be not long. You know, we were sure the war will be over in about few months. You know, everybody was against Germany in this particular time, and particularly later on when Russia entered the war in June 1941, then we were sure that we lasted only a couple months, but we were mistaken, lasted much, much longer, but it was a tragedy to our Jewish population in Poland. You know that.
You thought that the war would be over, and you thought that Germany would be defeated.
Oh, sure. There was no question in our mind that they will be defeated. But we didn't realize it, that they will hold for such a long period of time. And today, looking back on the history, we know many reasons and so far why this happened. Now, in these days, he started to utilize more Jewish help. He respects the type of work they're giving to him. He started to make a tremendous amount of money. We were helping him to unload lots of those goods on the black market too. So he was making also money on the side, beside from the German contract. But he was a very generous and humane man. Even that he was a German and that he was a German Catholic.
He sounds like a complex character.
He was a complex character because being 33 or 34 or 35 years old during the period, in a glamorous situation with tremendous amount of money, with a position that was tremendously respected, he endangered himself only by association with Jews, because the law and the restriction and the orders from the Gestapo that any German or anybody who will associate with Jews or try to help them by giving him only a pack of cigarettes could be shot. And when you sheltered them, there was no way that he will be not punished by penalty of death.
And then the racial laws.
Or the racial laws was so restricted, particularly for the German to associate with the Jewish population, that he broke every rules in a book by helping us, by giving us hope. That's what was the most important part. He told us, you will survive. I will try to do my best. I stay with you, all of you, till the 5 minutes after 12, this means after the liberation. Now you imagine when you are very down and somebody stretch a hand and say, I will help you, don't worry, I try my best. The spark of hope is in the human being, there's a human nature. And this gives us a strength to hold on. Yeah. And when we were losing slowly one part of the family, my parents were sent out to another city, and then they were sent to Belzec and killed there. My sister was on the Ariel paper. She tried to get back to ghetto, and she couldn't. And Gestapo caught her in Warsaw, and they executed her and her husband in Warsaw. And more families start to disappear. And then you find out that you are only two of you. I was married. I married my wife in July 1940. I was over 27 years old. My wife was in this time only close to 20, almost 20, 19, almost 20. And we were just in the beginning of our life, and the tragedy started to strike her. Her mother, she was separated from her mother. Her parents was doctors. Her father was a chirurg, and her mother was a woman illness specialist, skin specialist, very famous in Lodz. Now, she was separated from her. First, she was in Warsaw. Then we brought her from Warsaw to Krakow. Then they took her and she went to Tarnów. And then in Tarnów, she was part of the medical team in a Jewish hospital in ghetto in Tarnów. And then when they were liquidating the ghetto, she could go to the camp or the concentration camp as a doctor. But she decided to stay with her patient because, you know, she considered this her duty. And then you want to stay with the patient, and you go with the patient. And because they kill every sick person in the hospital. She was killed together with her patients in 1943. So the way they were, the Germans were the Gestapo. The rules was all the Jews affairs were run by Gestapo, by special department for this purpose created by Gestapo, and they have a completely upper hand in doing anything they please. Now, when we go back to Schindler, he became very friendly with all those people who were in charge of the Jewish affair. And by bribing them, by entertaining them, by catering to them, he gets something in return for us, the Jews who were under his protection. And he was lucky.
You call yourselves the Schindler Juden.
Yeah, we call us Schindler Juden, Schindler's Jews, because he was for us like a father and a mother.
Yeah.
The only hope.
Yeah. He lent you some spirit to get you through.
Oh, give us a tremendous spirit.
But you too were a leader.
What?
You also were a leader.
Look, I was a leader from nature, from the education, but as an officer, and I consider my duty to try to do my best to help as much you can. Now, we were lucky, and I can talk about these cases many, many times. You understand what I mean? But besides, somebody say, how you survive? You were the leader. How you help the other? The little things, what were the utmost important. The little thing. Not that I took somebody and I dig him out from the grave. This was impossible. He was dead. I'm talking like little things. Like he need a piece of bread, I give him a piece of bread, or I manage to give him a piece of bread, or I manage to tell him, hey, maybe you should do this thing and try to get in this job, or to do something else. Now, I was a professor, high school professor in concentration camp has no meaning whatsoever. I was on the list to go to Auschwitz. In the last minute, I went to the office of the German Labor Department, and I told this guy, listen, I'm strong, I'm young, why the hell are you sending me over there to camp? I can work here in Krakow. He looks on my card, and my ID card, and see high school professor Leopold Page. So he said, we don't need professors. Then I got idea when they don't need a professor, then they need somebody who can do something else with the hands instead with the head. And I said to him, excuse me, please, but I'm also qualified welder and metal polisher. This is a profession we needed. He scratched.
Did you know anything about that?
No. I didn't knew anything about except from physics.
This is before you met Schindler or after you met Schindler?
Oh, this was already in 1943. This was after.
After Schindler?
After, yeah. In this time, I still wasn't in the Schindler camp. I know Schindler from the beginning, but I wasn't working for him. I was freelancer. I was running around in the ghetto, trying to bring some food to ghetto. We were smuggling lots of food to ghetto. This was the only way we could, because my look was a very much area. I could get out from the ghetto, take my armband and pretend that I am Paul, my language and my expression was good, and I know the city upside down very well, and I was riding only a bicycle, and bicycle was a magic instrument. It was allowed me to sneak any place I wanted, and it was important. And I was a good sportsman, so I'm physically strong and things like this. So and we're using the bribery connection to get this stuff inside again.
So for three and a half years, you were able to operate without his protection.
Yeah.
What made you realize you had to become one of the Juden?
I don't want to be tied out to any particular job. In my mind, subconsciously, I was thinking that I have to run away and escape. I was trying to persuade my wife to do it with me, but she was very young, and she was very afraid and not experienced. I was more outdoor experience. I was not afraid to live in woods. I can live very well in woods. And the plants, you see, I know the mountains, I know the way how to move at night and so forth. I was a trained officer, so it was no problem for me to survive in any condition, winter or summer. And I was tremendously physically strong. But my wife didn't have the strength, and she was afraid. So the easier way was stay in the ghetto as long. But I didn't want to be tied up. I tied her up that she was working for a clothing manufacturer who was having factory in ghetto. You
So she
understand?
had an essential job.
Yes. That I knew that she is some way, somehow protected, but I want to be free. I figured out we have an agreement. Something happened. One of us has to get out from ghetto, and the only person that eventually can get out from ghetto, that was me. You see, and when you are on the job, then you have to report every day to the job, and they have your name and list, then they start looking for you. You see, and this way, what I was trying to do it. But in the last minute, she went to Plaszow when they liquidated the ghetto, and I didn't have a choice and to follow her there.
And his factory was there in Plaszow.
And they moved all the factory to Plaszow. Now, when I was in Plaszow, I was working for the garage, what belonged to the commandant, and I was a welder there, and I became a very well experienced welder over there. And this was an excellent job because, again, give you a free way to move. I could take my equipment and working on the street, they didn't know what I know. Somebody said, where are you going? Oh, the pipe there busted someplace, you see, or something like this. So it was giving me a chance to...
cover.
There was a cover, very good cover.
Want to talk a little bit more about Schindler and what took place there?
Now, Schindler knew already in 1941, when we went to ghetto, and the killing already started, not on a great scale. When anything happened, you understand what I mean? They always, the German came back, this is the last time. We have to do it because some undesired element was trying to do something against the Germany, or somebody was killed or something. And then they said, we have to close the ghetto, and we will build a wall. Well, the wall is for your protection, not to close you in, to protect you from the Polish population from outside. It's true that during the moving from Krakow to ghetto, many hoodlums, Polish hoodlums, I don't say the Polish population, I said Polish hoodlums, were jumping on the Jews, were stealing the leftovers what they were permitted to take it, and they were taking advantage of the tragedy what struck the Jewish population. So they will create, the Germans, the antagonism between the Jewish population and the Polish population to create, we protect you against the Poles, and we protect the Poles against the Jews who were scalping the Poles before, and we will having them in one place, and they will have their own Jewish federation, and they will have their own post office and their school and their police, and they will run by themselves. We will only supervise, and when they behave, nothing will happen to them. And the Jews accepted this. You understand?
You believe now that this was all part of the plan?
In these days, I knew that this is only a pretext to put us in one place. Because what they did, they allowed only to stay in Krakow ghetto those people who got a special permit. Those people who didn't get the special permit, they tell them you can go any place east, mostly to Lublin or to Sanok, closer to the Russian border. And happened on the Russian border that they forced some groups of Jews to cross the River San, and what happened, the Russian was shooting on them and killing them because they were crossing the borders, and when they were trying to get back to Germany, the Germans were shooting on them that they are coming back, and they were like in a no man's land.
Yes.
And they were all very big perfidias and misrepresentation, and they were afraid that Jews will resist it. When they will do this on a fast and powerful manner, they will have a resistance that happen in Warsaw.
I notice that you make a clear distinction, though, that you don't condemn all the Poles, despite these feelings about the German plan.
Will be no fair to condemn all the Poles. And I give you a very good example. In Yad Vashem, in Jerusalem, is a garden of righteous people. And there are 5,000 trees presently planted. 95% bear Polish name. And they are not all there who deserve to be there, who saved Jewish life during only the survivors who were saved, I consider should step it forward and talk about their experience and about those people who give them the helping hands, because this is important. Schindler's tree was the first one planted in Yad Vashem over there, and the first German who ever was recognized as a righteous Gentile by the Jewish government.
And
his tree is over there planted.
Were you instrumental?
Not in a direct way. Not direct way. The Israeli Schindler Jews were the most instrumental in these things. And Schindler was always a guest of the Israeli Schindler's Jews after the war, and he's buried in Jerusalem. Now, going back to my personal experience. So in the ghetto, you understand, they were making constantly certain action against the Jews. They were trying the original 15,000 Jews families should be in ghetto. Those people are supposed to be essential for the war German machine, who were working with German's company, like for Schindler or Madrid and some other companies. But more Jews start to sneak in the ghetto. And very soon the population in ghetto was almost 25,000. And was no place, because it was a close, very close space there. So they decided to liquidate the ghetto and start to ship those people out. And the first transports went in 1942 to Belzec. We didn't know where the transport were going. We found out because one person at Dragis come back. He survives by miracle. Came back and told us, and many people didn't believe it. I knew the man, and I believed what he said. Then more news were coming back, that they were killing those people, that were in the woods. Then they start to open a sub-camps not far away from Krakow, when the killing was going. During the action in ghetto, they were using constantly the firearms, and they were killing people for no reason whatsoever. Till in March 1943, the order came in to liquidate the Krakow ghetto and move a very essential group of people who were destined to work to the concentration camp in Podgórz, and the camp was built on a very famous Jewish cemetery. They utilized the cemetery because they approached this position this way, that they said, this is the closer place when they can go and be buried right away under Jewish cemetery. All the beautiful monuments and the stones, gravestones, were utilized, and we were doing the job because they forced us to make the roads in the camp, to use for the buildings of the building, and the camp was built there. And they were close to about 10,000 people in the beginning, but very soon they start to bringing people from the surrounding small villages, and they were enlarging, and very soon we have 15, 20, and even 25,000 people in the camp.
Was this a death factory camp? Was there a crematorium?
No.
Or?
In Krakow, in the beginning, they called this camp labor camp. But this was not a labor camp. This was a Vernichtungscamp. This means a camp of destruction. The killing was going every day for no reason whatsoever, or any imaginary reason. They were killing people. And we have even a game in the camp, from all this tragedy, we have a certain amount of humor who keep us alive. Like when my wife was coming back to the camp, she asked me how it was day to day. I said 61-0. This means they killed 61, my Jewish friend, not one German was killed. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
With one exception, that one of the person who was supposed to be executed jumped on one of the Ukrainian and killed him. So we have a 72-1. But this was only one case like this, and this was going day after day, and whipping and slave labor, and this was constant work day and night, and not 1 second of peace. And I don't have to tell you, go to the details, because this is a very well-known fact what was going.
This is 1943.
This was from 43 till the liquidation of Krakow concentration camp.
I want to ask you about the concept of killing. When did that come into your own mind? And
You see, those people who were in charge of those camps was a highly trained killer. They were trained and prepared by the Gestapo for this particular job. There were special units who were doing nothing else, only killing, and they were doing this with no hesitation whatsoever. Now, Get, for example, who was the commandant of Krakow-Plaszów, and he has a group about maybe 50 SS under his command, every one of them has to commit a murder, that he should be a part of the gang. And everyone. We have a story in a camp, what is a documented story, that one of the guard fell in love with one of those Jewish girl. And Amon Get found out. He gave him an order to kill this girl, and he killed the girl. It was a beautiful young girl. I knew the girl very well. And it was documented in the trial against Amon Get, because Amon Get was caught after the war and brought to Poland to justice, and the trial was held in Krakow, and he was condemned to death, and he was hanged in the same place when he was hanging his prisoners during the time when he was a commandant in Krakow-Plaszów.
When you have this type of experience and you recall it now, what type of feeling do you have about human nature? And if you were to explain this, for instance, to
I
a
will tell
younger
you
person.
what I have knowledge about human nature from my time when I was studying anatomy, biology, physiology. We are the most sophisticated animal, using our brain not to obtain only the food, but also a pleasure of killing. You see, animal, by instinct, only kill when they are hungry and they have to survive. We kill for a pleasure. And all the war in the human history was created on account of the pleasure. And we're facing the biggest Holocaust in front of us is now when we will not wake up and we not start to use our brain and our resources and our human attitude towards all the other human beings, like humanity man to man, we destroy ourselves. And we're going in this direction.
Yeah, but now, you were trained as a soldier. You were a soldier in the Army. And a soldier in the Army is trained to kill people for defense of his country. Did that give you any other different way of looking at the Germans?
You see, you cannot generalize this. It's very difficult. You see, everybody, a young person who was in the Army or Navy or Air Force, is trained to kill, and many of them, very decent human beings, were killing other human beings. And probably during the war, when I was in the front line and I was shooting, I hope I never kill anybody, but it's possible that I did. But you see, this was like a protecting your old self-being. They were attacking you, you were protecting you, or you were attacking to push them back. But this was a condition that was created specially for this purpose. When the purpose disappears and the condition disappears, I wouldn't touch a kill the fly, for example. You understand what I mean? Because my background, my education, my human standard, my moral standard was too high to lower myself. And I give you a good example. On the last day of war, in 1945, on the night of May 7, we disarmed in our camp close to 50 Gestapo officers. And many of our Jewish people who were there, and was over 1,300, almost 1,400 people in the camp, were demanding that we should kill those people. We, the leadership, didn't allow it because we said we will not lower ourselves to the same level as this Gestapo officer lowered themselves. We are human, and we behave as a human people, and we behave like a culture people. When the court decides to do with them something, this is up to the court. And we give all those, we hold them for 3 days because we were liberated by Russian, and all those 50 Gestapo officers was handed to the Russian. And we didn't kill Nobody.
Remarkable. You never at any time, for instance, during all these horrible periods, felt that you would like to kill
From hatred's point of hatred's
from
point?
revenge, from revenge?
No, never. 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 Even that I knew that maybe this person who is in front of me maybe was instrumental of killing my parents or my sister no. I would consider that this should go up to the jury and up to the court, and this is the place where things like this should be settled. And I was a couple times in Germany, testified in the courts against the Gestapos, who were a vicious killer. I make my statements there. They were prosecuted. They were sentenced to the jail sentences. Probably they are free now.
Did you at any time in all this period, after all you were an officer, you were a man who knew how to use guns, etc., were you connected with any partisan groups?
Yes. In this last moments, this means Schindler in his camp in Brünlitz organized 15 young people who were in charge. The order were to liquidate. When the Russians were coming, American was coming, the orders came to all the Gestapo to liquidate all those people. Kill them, simple. This is what liquidation means, kill them. So there will be no witnesses who can speak about the crimes. And our camp got the order to liquidate. And they dig already the graves. The Russian prisoner of war dig the graves. And Schindler make us aware, and they were 15 boys divided in small groups, that when the moment comes in that we should jump on the Gestapo, and maybe the rest people, maybe we will get killed because we will be the avant-garde, but the rest people maybe will see that we jumped and they cannot kill, 50 people cannot kill 1,300, so some of them will survive. He supply us with certain amount of arms, not many. We have one rifle, a few knives, and not one gun, I think, so I don't remember. And on the night, he helped and organized the way that we should surprise the Gestapo. And we surprised them. They didn't expect that we will make any underground activities. We jumped on them and we disarmed them. I was lucky enough that with my finger I disarmed the commandant of our guard. I sneaked behind him. I put my finger behind his bag. I said, Hände hoch, that means hand up. He put his hand up. I took his gun and I have a gun. But this was a lucky break. That's all what it is. Then we stayed 3 days in our camp, surrounded by close to 100,000 German army, like in the cattle. On the east side, the Russian, on the west side, the American, Frenchmen, and Englishmen. And for 3 days, till May the 11th, we were still in the center of the Germany, till the first Russian soldier came in to our camp, and officially we were liberated.
You tell a story about your decision not to go into Russia at that point also.
Yes. Coincidentally, I was very sick. On the last day, I think I have a touch of typhus. And I remained in the camp almost 4 weeks after the liberation, with a very dear friend of mine who was also a principal of my high school, Dr. Hilfstein, who was MD, and he stayed with us, with the few people who were sick. And he helped us, and we got well. So the Russians were coming over there, so we get very friendly, and I got very friendly with 2 Russian high-ranking officers, both colonels. One was Jewish, and one was not Jewish. And when we were all together, both the Russian soldiers were talking about a beautiful way of life, what is waiting for us in Russia, or all the territories occupied by Russia, and everything was in this period of time. East from Berlin was occupied by Russia, that we should go and help to build up new life, and how beautiful is Mother Russia, and how wonderful is Papa Stalin. Okay, I said, I didn't want to say anything in contrary, so I said, oh sure, when I get well, I am going straight to Moscow. And this Jewish officer one day called me up and said, hey, can you go with me in the woods? Okay, I was not afraid. And he said, Paul, run as fast as you can. West. Don't even turn east. Because there's the most horrible place to live under the communist regime. So I asking him, while you are not running away. Now you are a front soldiers, you can run away. Young folks say, no, because my family are hostages over there. And when I will run away, and they will know about this, that I'm not killed only, they will finish my family in Russia. And this is the truth.
So that's how that decision was made.
And I decided to go to America.
You want to talk a little about that period from your illness and the end of the liberation?
Now, after the liberation, I make a decision because I was working before the war with Weltverband Maccabi. There's a sport organization who was supplying also people who wants to emigrate to Israel. And they were up after me from 1936 to go to Israel as a physical education, particularly for the underground army that was already in existence in these days. And I want to go. The Polish army never allowed me to leave the Poland because I was active duty officer. So I couldn't go. But after the war, I decided to go to Israel. So the minute I got well, already rumors were coming from Poland that they were pogroms. And the remnants of Jews who returned to Poland to find their family got killed. And some of them my friends. In Krakow, in Radom, in Warsaw, any place they turn it. You understand? I said to my wife, there's no place to return for us. There's nothing there to come. We knew our family. I knew our family is dead. And I knew when, in case they will survive, we found each other through a Jewish organization in America or any other way, because we decided if we survive that we will try to contact our family in America.
You were in Germany at this time.
I was in Sudetenland, or Germany. This was Germany, yeah. And I went, then we decided to go to Budapest and Bucharest and Constance, because this was the only way you could get into Turkey to Israel. And we went through all the green borders till we got to Romanian border, and bingo, the Russians closed the borders. They didn't allow anybody else to get through. They were putting everybody in prison or sending them to Siberia or God knows. So we got stuck in Budapest. There was no way to do it. And the communist regime come in power. Then we decided to go back west. So we went back to Czechoslovakia, and being a communist regime was established in Czechoslovakia, we went through the green borders again to Germany, and I went out in Munich. And I knew one thing, that after the liberation, nobody will gold-plate at you because you were 5 years in concentration camp. Don't look for sympathy. You're looking for sympathy, then you are lost. And this was the tragedy of many of the survivors, that they were looking for sympathy or help or anything. It was no there. They were not prepared for it. Even that 6 million Jews were killed, and almost 5 million in concentration camp, other nationalities, because it's over 11 million, what officially is known. How many was more positively will overpass these figures when we start to really evaluate the figures. I knew that nobody is waiting for me with an open hand to take me there.
You didn't feel anyone owed you anything?
No, I don't think so. I personally consider myself that I was lucky and survived, and my job and my way is to go forward, build up a new life, regardless where this will be. But I knew one thing, that I will never go back to Poland. I was only dreaming to go to Israel, but because in this time was very difficult to get to Israel legally, and my wife was a little bit always, she's an exceptionally beautiful woman. As a human being, as an intelligent, extremely. She, many times, her advice, her help during my lifetime was helping me tremendously, because he is an unusual person, and people who knew my wife understand what I'm talking. It's very easy for me to say so, but this is true. My wife is an intellectual, highly educated. She studied medicine before the war. and after the war she never went back to school, but self-educated by the reading, speaks fluently in writing and words, English, French, Polish, German, so very well-educated person. And she was a tremendous inspiration for me during the time, because I'm more optimistic and I'm sometimes shooting from the hip. You know, when you say it, I'm reacting sometimes too fast. But she's, like you say, a good brakes for me. And she was afraid to go to the borders. You understand? And physically maybe and mentally she wasn't prepared. Remember, I was only 105 pounds when I left the concentration camp, so imagine how much she weighed. And many times, when the last few months we were together in Schindler camp, many times from her little piece of bread, what she was getting, she gave me a little because she figured out I need a little bit more. And I asked her, you are not, oh no, I'm not hungry, this is for you. And she gave it to me. So she sacrificed lots of things to keep me going. And then when I was sick after the liberation, she stayed with me all the time. So when we came back to Germany, I had many possibilities to go to Israel, many, and I was invited to go by Haganah. I was supposed to go there. I organized a group of 600 young people to be soldiers in Germany. They went there. Some of them got killed. A dear friend of mine got killed in 1948 in Israel, and I didn't go. I became involved in the education in Germany with United Nations Relief Fund. I became an education center director for the headquarters 5 of United States Army in Munich, and I organized in schools for children between age of 3 and age 16 to give the parents a free hand to go and obtain the special papers or immigration paper or go to work and make some living. And it was a very successful affair for 2.5 years. I have close to 1,750 students there. Also, I was lucky that many of the students got a United Nations Relief Diploma as a high school graduate, and they could enter universities, and they, in Germany and in Israel, and they travel. In my group of the 1,700 children in this particular time, they were not only Jewish children. The majority, the biggest group was the Jewish, but they were Mennonite, they were Czechoslovakian, they were Hungarian, Polish, they were all mixed nationality, and they lived together beautifully.
Yes. Any regrets about not going to Israel?
What did you say?
Any regrets about not going to Israel?
Yes, I have a lot of regret. I think so that I, with my education and with my experience and my knowledge, my job was in Israel. Because when I arrived to the United States, I couldn't utilize my education at all. My tragedy was I didn't speak English. Very well German, beautiful Polish, I understand Russian and Czechoslovakian, but not English. Because this part of Poland, what was occupied by Austria, where I was born, the German language was a dominating language. This part, when my wife was born in Lodz, French and English was as a second. So she had a little bit knowledge of French and a little bit knowledge of English, and because she has a talent to languages, she was like my interpreter. When I came to the United States in 1947, I knew only 2 words: keep out and okay. Now, how far you can go in education field with 2 words? And nobody speaks Polish or the German in the university here. They know very well English. So if somebody asked how you manage, I said, when somebody was talk to me English, I said, okay. He was thinking I understood him very well, but I didn't. But from the way how he behaved or how he was acting, I figured out what he wants from me, and I tried to some way, somehow communicate, and I communicate. I couldn't work in my profession, and this was also a mistake because I could go to school.
Were you depressed about that?
In the beginning, yes. I was a little bit upset, but I knew that life has to go on, and I was almost 34 years old when I came to the United States, and married. You understand? I have to support family, and I'm not the type that I will go and beg to support me to Jewish organization, to any organization. So I decided to do something. No, I couldn't do it only with my head. I decided to do something with my hands. So 3 weeks being in New York, I opened a handbags repairman. So somebody was asking me, why do you open a handbags repairman? I said, very simple. My father always told me, when you will be a bad student, I send you to a shoemaker. No, shoemaker in America I didn't want to be. But I like to do something with leather, and the experience of mechanic and welder in what I learned in concentration camp gave me a little bit mechanic, and I'm mechanically inclined, but I see my hands can do it. I opened 3 weeks later a repair shop in New York City on the best location, corner 5th Avenue and 46th Street. And I became very well known in a very short period of time. Then somebody mentioned to me that New York was a very bad climate for me because I had dislocated back. I got 3 times whipped in camp, and they dislocated my back. And during the time, every time a change of climate, I got a bad problem with my back. So I was looking where I can move from New York City. Somebody said that the best place is Beverly Hills, California. So, but you have to retire before you're going over there. And I was only 36 years old. I said, no, I don't want to wait another 30 years till I retired. I moved out after 3 years being in New York to California, and I'm since 1950 till present time in Beverly Hills, California. You know. Now I'm married, you know. I have 2 children. I have a son who has master's degree in economics. I have a daughter. She is studying child psychology, but they are both working now with me in my business, making more money as teachers.
Yes.
Okay. Can you stop this way?
Stop tape for a second.
Stop the tape for a second.
You mentioned to me that there was something in your approach, a positive philosophical perspective that you have maintained.
Yeah, we discussed about this, and I tell you something, when you will have no optimistic approach, you wouldn't survive. You have to believe it that you will survive. Because the minute you forget about this thinking that you will be the one who survive, you already lost. And you have to have a positive attitude. And I tell you something that in the Plaszow camp happens so often that people making joke about being over there, some over there even vulgar joke. The women were sometimes singing during the time when the killing was going on to keep their spirit and high hope that they will survive. And this was the only way you could really survive, believing that you will succeed and survive, and you will be the one who will have chance to talk later on about this.
But you mentioned also that if something goes wrong, you also expect something will go right in life.
You know, there's always saying when it's very dark, a little light, someplace, somehow will come over. And this is the truth, because it couldn't be more darker than being in a concentration camp. But some way, somehow, a little light came from someplace. Or I give you an example. There were rumors that Switzerland will send a food to the camp. We never saw this food, but the rumor were there. Oh, then somebody outside Germany is thinking about it, so maybe then tomorrow will be better. You see, and this was really giving this very hard when you are very hungry, when you have nothing on your body, and it's a 10 or 15 degrees below zero, and you are barefooted, and you have diarrhea, and you are sick. It's not too much light left over. You understand what I mean? But people were dying in dignity even in this camp. I consider that they were asking me many times, you never resisted. You went like sheep to the slaughter. It's not true. Even those people who were going to the gas chamber, they were going there in dignifying way. They resisted, not by, they were forced to be pushed in it, by not crying, not begging, not yelling, only they went with the head up. They knew they would die. They knew they would be killed. But they didn't give them the satisfaction to those people who were committing the murders. And this is resistance. I saw 2 father and son on Yom Kippur Day staying facing the east and praying, 6 o'clock in the morning, and the Gestapo officer approached them and say, "Los, go to work." They were in such contemplation and such spiritual hypnosis, you know, they didn't react. He pulled a gun and killed them. Now, they were talking to God. They didn't want to be disturbed. This is a resistance. When we were making a line of munition and we were slowing the production, this was a resistance. We knew that maybe we will not survive, maybe we will be killed today, tomorrow, next day. We don't know what will be the end. But we were trying some way, somehow, to resist, to slow down the production, to sabotage the production. And this was not only in our camp, with the help of Schindler, but he was helping us tremendously to this job. He expressed himself that on his birthday, on April 28, 1945, he got a telegram from War Department that his production stinks and the bullets cannot be sent to the Eastern Front and be used. And he said it was the best birthday present he ever received. Now, you understand? So this was resistance. So we didn't go like ships to the slaughter. People were resisted. And morally, physically, we tried to slow down as much as... But the tragedy is this, that from 6 million people is only 5% what really survive. And 95% perish. This is a tremendous inhumanity man to man committed by highly educated, highly sophisticated people that were considered before the war on the top. And when somebody will ask me before the war that this will happen 5 years later, I will say that this guy has to go to a doctor and his head should be examined. Nobody will believe it. Somebody will tell me that it will happen, this is Russia, I will believe it. Now this was the difference. But this never happened in Russia during the period. Lots of Jews were safe during the time when they were in Russia. Polish Jewry, many, close to 500 Jews survived in Russia from Poland. And they came back, or some of them maybe stay. Some are here now in America.
Well, in spite of all of that, you maintain your humanity. You mentioned the Rosner baby.
Now, you see, the humanity, because this is your background, your education, your home, the children education, how you were brought. Now, Jewish family were bringing their children in just manner. Particularly the religious Jews were very high moral standard. And the Jews are not the killers. The Jews are mostly scholars, children of book. A little boy, 3 years old, go to the Haider or yeshiva or someplace and he learned how to read, how to write. Even that this is in Hebrew, but what a difference. His mind is trained to absorb, to study, and to be educated. We cannot be a murderer and killer. I don't mean an individual, it can happen, but as a nation or as a group, it's physically impossible. Now, the moral standard is in you. You understand what I mean? Built up. And then when you utilize this moral standard, you can survive too. But sometimes maybe when my life will be at stake, I will not hesitate to kill, because I remember a case when I was cleaning a window on one Sunday, and there was in the barrack maybe about 40 people, and the drunk assessment came in and asked all the people outside the barrack. He just killed somebody in the barrack below, and we knew that he is drunk and he will kill somebody. Then he turned and he asked, who was cleaning today's window? My God, I was the man who was cleaning the window. Step out. Nobody was stepping out, and I didn't step out either. I said, I will be not volunteer any information. So he pulled his gun and said, when the man who cleaned the window will not step, every second or every fifth guy will be killed. And he will do it. Then I start to think what I should do. I said, when I step out and report to him in military manner, because I understand the mentality of these people, you understand what I mean? Then maybe, and I survive. When he will go for a gun, I go for his throat. I didn't have any other choice. You understand? So I stepped out in front of him so that I was almost close to him that I can reach him. And I report in German, because everything was going in German, that I was the man who cleaned the window. So he asked me a question, those windows are clean? So I look on the window and I said, no, they dirty. So he started to whip me and cut me here and cut me from this side. But I didn't move, because when I will start moving or protecting myself, I knew he will pull the gun and shot me. I didn't move. So he looked at me and he said in German, I'm hurting you? I said, you can kill me, I will never move, I'm Polish officer. This is the truth. He looks at me, came to me, pat me on the back, took a pack of cigarettes, gave me a pack of cigarettes, left us in the front of the barrack, went to another barrack and killed somebody there. And from this time, his name is Hans Schneider. The man was coming to the barrack and was bringing me a piece of bread. He found out that my wife was in the women's barracks. He was bringing her a bread. And then he was instrumental when the list was made to go to Schindler, that I asked him to give Schindler my name so that he can put my name on the list. And he gave it to him, and I found myself on the Schindler list.
How do you explain
How
do you explain
I
this?
tell you what happened even later on. Later on, he was sent to the Russian front because he came to the barrack and he was crying and told me that he is going to be shipped to the Russian front. Maybe I broke his spirit. I don't know. I cannot explain. I stood up against him. But he maybe realized, I don't know if he did or not, but I knew it, that when he will pull gun, then I will try to protect myself. You see? I don't know what will be the outcome of it. You understand what I mean? But I would not let him to kill me in a cold blood. But he realized it, that I have the strength and guts to step forwards, and he respected this. You understand what I mean? He respected as a soldier. I showed the superiority to him. You see? And there was a split moment. The similar situation I have with Amon Get in the ghetto, when I was trying to escape. Well, this is another story. And, during the last day of liquidation of ghetto, my wife already was in Plaszow, and I was thinking to escape, after the action and go on the Polish side. And I was hidden behind an iron wall, and through the little slit between the wall and the iron gate, I saw Amon Get and two other Gestapo officers coming. But I noticed there were two dogs, and they were just pull out a woman from a little door with a baby. And they killed the woman and they killed the baby. And they were about maybe 500 meters away from me, and they were coming towards us. I knew the dogs will smell me out very easy, because they smell the woman right away from behind the doors over there in the house. So I decided to step it out in the center of the street when nobody was there. Everybody was already left the ghetto. They were only empty streets. And without hesitation a minute, because there were bundles laying all over and briefcases, and I started to put them all in one place. Like I got an order that they asked me to put those things. And I knew that when they come over, I will report to them that I got the order to clean the road for the cars or what it is. And they came close to me that I can turn it to them. I turn it, and in military manner, I report to the commandant that I have an order here to clean the road so that the cars can pass by. And it was so ridiculous, the excuse, that they all start to laugh so hardly. And the dogs were barking and jumping, and I knew that any minute they will tear me to pieces. You understand what I mean? That it was ridiculous. They were killing 7,000 people, was killed in the 24 hours, and this idiot is staying here and reporting somebody asked them to clean the bundles. But came to the sense that maybe somebody did. So he said to me, "Verschwind and go," because the last group is leaving the ghetto to go to the concentration camp in Plaszow. I didn't wait the second time. I ran. I prayed to God that they will not blow my brain from behind. And I was lucky. I was the last one who left the ghetto with the last group.
Yes, but you see, we talked before about why some people survive and why some people don't survive. And sometimes you can attribute it to luck, and sometimes you can attribute it to quick thinking and a certain type of ingenuity I think this story indicates.
Yes, you're right. You have to combine both things together. You cannot separate. This was tremendous luck because for him to blow my brain was nothing. He just killed a woman and a child, innocent two people. And to kill another guy, but the life was like a smoke of cigarette. You understand what I mean? But my approach to them, they see I was not afraid. I didn't realize that they can kill me. Or they said, maybe the guy has 100% right that he is here, and they give him the order, and he's doing the job what they ask him to do it. So he said, for this we will not kill him. He's doing the job. Let him go out. You have to combine both, a luck and your quick reaction to a situation. And this is the reason that lots of young people, even though they didn't have the same training as an intellectual or as an officer what I have, because they were young and quick and they react first and they knew what is going on and understand the situation with a certain amount of luck, survive. Majority was young people. And those young people, I have to give them credit because when they survive, you understand, they came forwards in life. I give you an example. I am the best president and founder of 1939 Club, a survivor organization. We started with a small group. We grew to have 700 people. When I met those people the first time when we were adapting them to the organization, they were people with no education, very young. You understand? 15, 16, 20, 25, trying to build their life in a strange country, no language, no occupation. Some of them went to schools and graduated here and became doctors and attorneys and prominent people. The other went to business and they became builders and successful businessmen. And I have to give them credit. When I look through the welfare organization here, how many of those people went on welfare? You will find a very small promille went on welfare. Mostly they were all building their new life in a new country on their own. And they build it, and they create new family. They have the inner strength and ability. Maybe the 2,000 years of Jewish suffering give them the inner strength. I don't know. I'm not such deep in this part of the human behavior, but this is something strictly and amazing, because we got here in America refugees from Korea and Vietnam and Cambodia and South America and Mexico and over. 90% of them go first on welfare. Here was a case of emigration. Close to about 500,000 people from all over the world came here of newcomer Jews, and promille are only what was on the welfare. There's some credit has to go to those people, because they didn't become liabilities here in America. They became assets, wonderful assets. The second generation, the children, what the people brought to this world, you will find out they are famous. Some of them are famous engineer, professor, mathematician, doctor, business people. They all giving something to the community, to the Jewish people here. They all understand what is the score, and they're wonderful. And this is what I'm proud that I'm part of this group.
So your father's wish to come back to America,
I fulfill.
You fulfilled, and your children fulfill.
Yes,
as
I
Americans.
fulfill. Yeah, I'm only sorry to say that from my family of over 100 people, the nearest one, and about 500 people around this family, only here survive in America 3 people, and outside maybe another have a dozen.
Now, we want to make mention of Keneally and the book about Oscar Schindler.
Now, I was instrumental very much in a book what is titled Schindler's List. I put as a important to say the story of Schindler, that during the biggest inhumanity man to man, a person can very easy get involved himself and help a fellow man in a tragic situation to inspire him to survive or give him a hand, helping hand to survive. Schindler, a German and Catholic and young person, he put on himself to be like a Noah. He knew when he will save a crisscross of Jewish community, a man, a woman, a child, a teacher, a lawyer, a worker, metal worker, even a prostitute and a thief, he'll create, when everybody else will get killed, he will create, and he will be lucky to save those people, a new future Jewish generation. He survived. He helped them. He helped us to survive. And he was proud of this, that he helped us. And from this 1,300 Jews, we grew to about maybe 3,000-4,000 now Schindler Jews. And I put on myself to put this story on a paper, and I was very lucky. I met Thomas Keneally, a very famous Australian novelist. He fell in love with the story. He wrote the book. The book became a classic to show humanity man to man. And I have a picture here of Schindler with some of the survivors here. After the war, this picture was made by me. This in the center on the left side of Schindler is my wife, handsome man, tall, over 6 foot. And he was our father, our mother, and our only hope during the tragic year during the Holocaust.
And he kept track of all of you and...
This is a couple who was saved by Schindler, and when the first child was born, they sent this picture to Schindler and say, "Dear Director Schindler, thanks to you, we have a daughter."
You show another picture.
Yeah, this is a picture that was taken with Schindler in beginning 1944, when the biggest killing was going in the camp. In his camp, all the people who were working in his office or in his factory were still using their own clothes, and they don't look undernourished in this particular time. What give them later a tremendous strength to survive, because some of those people, for example, who were in our camp, like on this picture, and this is only in 1943 made picture, already looks like a undernourished Muslim.
So you're saying anywhere else in Europe that Jews survived, they would have been skeletons, and here they're well-nourished.
They still are very strong and healthy, and that give them a tremendous strength to survive the last few months. But in Schindler came in brilliance. You understand, the amount of food that he was getting to us was sufficient that we could survive and
withstand disease like typhus, too.
The most important thing, what I consider what he did, he saved 116 skeletons from Goleshaw. A transport came on January 6 of 1945 to Brinlitz. They were all frozen. They were almost 7 to 10 days, I don't know exactly, in the cattle train, in sub-zero temperature, with no water, no food, nothing. There were 123 people, and I don't remember, or 8 or 9 was dead already, and the rest was almost. When the train will not stop at Brilnitz, or will lasted another night, not one of those people will survive. Schindler asked the commandant to open the gate, and I was the welder. I cut the door with a torch, and we took the people out. They had frozen fingers, ears, noses. We brought them to life, and from January till the May the 8th, Mrs. Schindler and Mr. Schindler provide food, medication, and medical help, and save 116 people from those people. Not one of them will survive another few hours.
Paul, can you tell us the last of the story about the Rosner baby?
The Rosner baby, these are my friends. Hermann Rosner is a very famous musician from before the war. He finished the Vienna Conservatorium, and he was having violinists, excellent violinists. So in the camp he was playing for the commandant with his brother. He has a little boy, about 4 years old, and they give it this boy to the Polish family. In 1944, they asked commandant for permission to bring the boy to the camp, to the Plaszow camp. I tried to talk him out from it. But he said, what happened to us, let's happen to my son too. And they asked me, and because we were working in the garage, we were going outside to bring the supplies and things like this. One day, we brought the boy in the camp. And I put him in a little box, and we covered with all kind of supplies. When we came to the border to enter the camp, there was not official permission. You understand? Rosner was thinking that the commandant let him have the boy there. But I knew that all the kids are not a part of the camp. So what happened, we came to the border, and they opened the gate, and the guard was looking in, and I hear a voice from the box coming out. Sir, sir, my feet are sticking out. I almost fainted. I saw 2 little feet sticking out from the box. Some way I managed with my feet to cover his feet, and the guard was looking around and waved us in, and we brought the boy. The boy got on the list of Schindler, and he went to Brinlitz. But in Brinlitz, the order came in from Gross-Rosen to take all the fathers and the kids to Auschwitz. And they took all the kids to Auschwitz, but miraculously they survived in Auschwitz and Dachau, and they are now in New York.
Some last words that you want to impart?
The biggest lesson from the experience, when I was thinking that the humanity will learn something from this tragic experience of those people who were killed or murdered or suffered during the period of Nazi regime in Germany and Europe, is not here. We, the people who live now, we didn't learn anything from this particular period. We're committing the same crimes now, maybe not as this big scale, but will not stop to that another Holocaust will happen. And I take a little blame for it myself. I mean we the survivors. Because after the liberation, we didn't want to discuss this project. We didn't want to talk about this. We want to heal the wounds inside our hearts. And we want to go forward in life and build a new life. And I think so that this was maybe a mistake, because we should talk from the beginning. I don't talk about me because I was always talking, and there were groups of people who always talk about this. But as en masse, we never talk about it. Lately, I'm glad that it's not too late. We the survive open. We decide to talk about this. Maybe the outside forces who were denying the Holocaust period, that there was a hoax, forced us to open. And I think so this was a good omen, because this way we can talk and tell the world the whole truth. We have a gathering in Jerusalem that was tremendous significant. You understand? Close to 15,000 people were there from all over the world. We have this year a tremendous get-together in Washington, D.C. to thank the United States government to allow us to come to United States and start a new life with an open hand. Not any other country did it to us. United States open and permit us to come over and start a new life. And we are talking now, and we have courses, and we have groups, and we have television stations, and people maybe learn something from our experience, because Holocaust can happen again. Inhumanity man to man exists today and is going bigger than ever. The reason, I have no answer for it.
Fine. That's it.
Okay.
Terrific.
I don't know.